Hi, everybody. I'm Padraic O'Reilly. I'm the founder and chief innovation officer at CyberSaint. And today I'm honored and privileged to have with me Srini Tummalapenta, who is a distinguished engineer and CTO at IBM Security Services. We're going to talk a little bit today about our partnership, joint solutioning, and some of the issues we've encountered in our travels. Security teams are overwhelmed with data, but they still struggle to answer a fundamental question: what actually matters? We're here to explore how cybersecurity is evolving from fragmented data collection to a unified cyber risk intelligence layer. We will break down how layered AI architectures, agentic workflows, NLP, GNNs, and LLMs, a whole panoply of techniques, enable organizations to normalize massive amounts of security data and transform it into real-time, actionable insight. We will discuss how companies can leave static, spot-checking, spreadsheet-driven analysis behind once and for all. We're going to touch upon what it takes to connect telemetry, controls, and threat intelligence into a system that continuously prioritizes risk, supports decision-making, and aligns cybersecurity with business outcomes. Srini, welcome.
Thank you.
Wonderful to have you here. From your perspective, what is driving the shift away from point-in-time assessments and more towards an integrated, holistic approach right now?
I think just change in the technology, change in the landscape about continuing policy and techniques emerging out of regulators and standards and everything. In the governance, risk compliance, and the risk posture assessment in that particular space, that need to be continuously aligning to abide by those policies, show the compliance posture, showing the regulations adherence. That's one part which is driving one motivation. The second motivation is people are excited about the technology. Yeah. Every domain specialist is looking at how do I take the newer technologies of agentic, AI combination, bring it together and apply to my domain, is what is driving that too. Right. And thank you for the partnership. And you've seen how we brought our solutions together. And we were talking about a 7-week sprint that we did, and how we brought it together and the speed that which by virtue of leveraging that technology, we brought some solutions together. So that's the now basis for this speed.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and you mentioned excitement and that 7-week sprint. I mean, we just, as a team, and you brought 20, 30, 40 people to it, bringing new data, bringing techniques you'd already used, bringing new agentic, insights and chaining things and building out a data intelligence layer. So exciting, because I've been working for years with clients, and reg change, compliance assessments, just the grind of it is, it can be exhausting, and it's important to do. So to see some of these efficiencies coming in from our collaboration is just wonderful. So from an engineering standpoint, Srini, where does the breakdown actually happen? Is it in the data itself, the models, or the ways that systems are architected?
So we'll take a couple steps back and talk about the patterns first. So, and we have published this through Institute for Business Value reports that IBM presents. There are 3 consumption models we see. One, any developer or AI consumer is accessing AI as a service. In that particular point, in that particular pattern, it's a shared responsibility where the service provider will have everything. They own the model, they own the data, they own the application, they own the application interfaces. But the consumer or the corporate user is interfacing with that. And the inferences and the data that they're passing through that inference is what the corporate data is, right? And their identity and the API access to that. So got to say, that's a pattern, that's a shared responsibility. Second one is more about a hybrid model where the client or a developer is taking certain data set, taking to a service provider And for example, it's a RAG pattern. They're putting the data and putting into the vector databases, and they're developing the application on top of it. They don't own the model. They're using the service provider model, but it's their data in the application, right? So that's where the shared responsibility lies. And that is a hybrid pattern. It's a combination of the two. Within the corporation, there are some parts of the business that they're developing the models, right? So that's where the complete data, and then now how you develop the data inspection, the model inspection, and the data lineage and the model lineage, all those things come into picture. And except for the basic infrastructure, everything else is the corporate responsibility, right? So when you look at the answer to that question, where do you think, right? So that's the kind of, we've got to look at the pattern, got to look at where you're developing, how you're developing, what you're developing, what data you're bringing in, and thereby say, here is the shared responsibility.
Wonderful. Yeah. And that shared responsibility really accelerates adoption, and that's been one of the things that I really enjoyed watching. Because sometimes, companies will have some concerns, around governance and these things. But before long, the governance with respect to the AI will also be a part of this solutioning. So when you think about combining different techniques, say NLP, graph-based models like GNNs, chained agents, agentic workflows, LLMs, some of it powered by LLMs, how does all of this symphony of techniques work together in practice?
So in practice, again, depends on the use case. Right? We'll take a couple of the use cases that we have developed. When we look at a threat detection and response use case, we have a multi-agentic framework we call as ATOM, Autonomous Threat Operations Machine. We've taken a particular telemetry structure, identified the attributes, and handed over each agent and activity to analyze each attribute of that telemetry structure. Right? Then bring it together, do the analysis, do the risk rating, risk analysis on top of it, write the report, and provide that to the SOC analyst. So that's right. These were typically being done by a human analyst before, but with agentic and multi-agentic approach, we've been able to do those things. Right? In this particular pattern or a solution architecture, we use agentic. Right? We use agents talking to LLM. We use agents talking to traditional models. We also have some rule-based automation as part of it. So we use as a combination of all of these things together to deliver an outcome. That we call it as a digital worker. So that's one example. The second example that we are partnering together, we've done this collection of all of this information from scanners and from various metadata elements from observability tools and IT and application observability tools, and we collected this into the asset intelligence.
Right.
Okay. Between your team and our team, what did we do? We looked at it and said, okay, this is the asset intelligence, this is the asset contextualization. Then we have the MCP servers at every layer. We brought this asset information and the vulnerability and aligned to your technology through that MCP server, and then had the continuous controls mapping.
Yes.
Right? In this case, we took the platform as is, where you're doing the policy analysis and the policy attribution to the client, and then the controls around it. We've done this, took the same client information, did a graph analytics on top of it, brought the information together. But the new techniques that we use through the agentic methodology and the MCP gateway and the MCP servers is the new way of looking at it.
Yes.
And this synchronization that is happening, it leads to your first question about why and how this is dynamically changing. That's what got us excited.
Yes, that's very exciting. Because it really is broadening the lens, bringing in additional context, and doing it in a very efficient way, and doing it in a risk-informed way. For years we've talked in the industry about risk assessments being too point in time, too static. When you're bringing in this information from threat intelligence, from ATOM, into the MCP server, looking at the regulations, the policies, the controls, the control layer, you can begin to rationalize everything. You can really rationalize everything in terms of risk, which is going to really help professionals. So, if you were designing this from the ground up, what does that layered AI architecture actually look like for cybersecurity? I think you actually answered that.
Yep, the layered architecture. Now, let's say we have to design that ground up.
Right.
Okay. Now, in the autonomous security program that we talked about, we actually designed it ground up, but we have not reformatted or redesigned every layer from ground up.
Right.
We took the strengths of the existing platforms and the technologies, but created this interoperable layer, and then had them deliver more value than they were delivering before.
Yes.
Okay? So we can talk about that as a ground up architecture, as in that was not the individual strength of each product, but we engineered it in such a way that we are leveraging the existing capability and enhancing.
You used the phrase on some of our calls, breaking down silos. And, you hear it in our industry sometimes, breaking down the silos. But it really is about interoperability.
Correct.
And interoperability is not easy. Translating is not easy. But you all, in partnership with us on this set of solutions and use cases, really dug into it. Really dug into it. You also used the phrase "the art of the possible." It was really like watching the art of the possible happen every day. So, what does it take? I like this question. What does it take to normalize massive amounts of security data? This is what I've been trying to do for years across tools, formats, and environments. What's your take on this?
So I think the answer lies in, first is, what value that data provides. Okay? We've seen many clients saying, I'm sending all of this data and suddenly my tool ABC is costing me $100 million. Okay? So first we have to say, okay, do you really need all that data?
You might not.
Are you sending only the informational logs only? And can you go back to the source that is actually generating that information and tune it right?
Tune it a bit. Yeah. You don't need all of it.
So you don't need all of it, right? Now, the second thing is, what do you need for long-term and short-term? Okay. Is this for audit purposes and compliance purposes, so that you need to parse it out through what do you need it for, more for short-term or immediate, like real-time analytics? Is that the same value? Right. So now you have to bring those things in and use the right technology. Now, if it is for audit and compliance purposes and you need it for 7 years, 5 years, there's a technology and a solution for that, for long-term storage. You need it for real-time analytics, there's a technology for that. In our scenario, we've used the asset intelligence lake. Okay, we brought in the appropriate metadata plus the scan information and the observability, and we constructed that. But we're using it for multiple purposes. I'm using it for governance, risk, and compliance. I'm using it for policy and guiding the policy enforcement. I'm also using it for detection and response. So, two-part answer. One, tune it. Take that not necessary data out. Two, after you curate it, use it for multiple purposes. Right? And it is not necessary that this data is only applicable for security. It can also be applicable for non-security. The information asset intelligence that we created can actually help update the CMDBs. And make that CMDB stronger and more trustworthy.
More accurate. That's right. And, sometimes my developers ask me, what are we doing with event data? How do we translate event data into risk data? And I'm like, well, there are many techniques to do it, but you're not going to pull in every event, and you guys quite clearly demonstrated that during the process that, you look at events of a certain confidence and then you put them into, and then you start enriching everything with that. So the use case is very important. It's a very good point.
In our case, what did we decide? We said only the investigations that are required. And as per the policy that needs to be reported into the GRC, only move those things.
That's right. And that's how you can use data in a risk-informed way. And you mentioned earlier when we were discussing, reg change. I've been working in this space with customers for many, many years. And Evelyn pointed out earlier that, you might have 13 regulations in the average corporation. Well, what happens, and NIST 853's got 1,008 controls, or there's some enhancements now, so it might be 1,012, but you've got a big library of controls, and then they're changing. They're also changing. And we're using, through our partnership, we're using techniques to update that in real time. So that data is coming in to a changing environment. It's no longer the hair-pulling exercise that everyone's been going through forever. So connecting the data. This is a good one. How do you connect it? Controls, telemetry, vulnerabilities into something that actually reflects real risk exposure.
Yeah. One advantage based on the other example that you mentioned is I don't have hair, so I don't have to pull out my hair. So one way to that connecting ever-changing regulations, and we discussed this about a little bit about it. Today, or 1 year to today, is more about regs are changing. More you mentioned about NIST, ISO, or other things have incrementally updated that information. Great, and we have to catch up to that and enhance our policies and then controls and educate the users about what is changing. Now think about the dynamic ways that things can happen from now to the future. Almost every state in the US will have an AI policy. EU AI Act. Then we are talking about sovereign data and sovereign AI. Multinational corporations operating across all of these areas.
That's right.
How can they digest all of those changes?
The harmonization problem is incredible.
And align them to what they're doing, map it, right? And the mapping is not just to the current security technologies, but there are also new AI posture technologies, right? Agent posture and agent watch and agent monitoring technologies coming in.
Right.
Now we have all this as part of a version 1, that's what we created. Now more and more things will come in, more and more policies and regs will come in across a global in nature.
Yes.
How do we create that systems that these are dynamically ingesting, dynamically mapping, aligning, and we bring in the posture assessment in a dynamic fashion, right? That's the premise of what our solution is on the autonomous security solution that we are creating, right? So we will enter into that world very shortly.
Yes, and we're already, and with some of the people you work with, I'm already working with, and that's an exciting one, very much so, because when you go into corporations and you talk to the leaders about what they are worried about, what they are looking for in the future, that one comes up right away. And one of the first points of engagement with your clients and our joint clients is that problem. Here's what I'm looking at. Here are my controls. Here are my regulations. Show me a way to do this that doesn't break our heads, break the bank, and that's what we're doing.
And the beauty of the solution that we created thus far, I know we have more to create.
We do.
Right? It gave us the continuous controls mapping. Then I was talking to Matt, Matt was showing me the risk quantification in dollars.
Yes.
And I said, okay, can we map it into some quantification which is not dollar terms, but give me a relative risk quantification on that. Without any massive changes, it was able to demonstrate that. Right? Now, I can make sense of that data for technical people who don't want to look at dollar terms. We can use for people who want to look at dollar terms, we can use that same data, just a different dimension of it, right? And then we are doing all of the continuous controls mapping as well, right? Just that, set it up one time, then the visualization automatically happens along with that, right? Then the conversational interface that we put on top of it, so that the CISO or the CRO can talk to their data through their respective favorite conversational interface. That's a value add.
Huge, huge. And you have different needs for those different roles, and across organizations they speak differently about risk at times. And we use actuarial data, but we also use more qualitative data. And I think you have to be as flexible and as agnostic as possible when it comes to risk quantification. That was one of the things in my background that I was passionate about, and it's wonderful to see that your approach is similar. And it's how you can help the client. Really, it comes down to.
Yep.
So, from a systems perspective, Srini, what sits inside this cyber risk intelligence layer? What are the key components that make it work, make it tick?
I think we've touched on a couple of these things, right? One is the asset intelligence itself.
Yeah.
That's collecting all of the information, contextualizing it based on the business application and in that entire asset context, and then reconciliation of it. Now, just taking that asset context based on an application and setting up that business context and the business priority, that's very big for the people, the SOC analysts and the SOC engineers and the people who are working on production technologies.
Right.
Obviously, there's a benefit in terms of the governance, risk, and compliance. Right? So that's one. The other thing is about the telemetry we're getting from the non-security layers, the IT and the application and everything. That'll enrich further on those things. Right? So now in the future, that's today.
Yeah.
As we go into more observability coming from agents and AI, this will continuously grow. Right? So that's what we look at that as the foundational layer for all of the above.
Yeah.
Right? In terms of NIST cybersecurity framework, we map it to that, right? We consider this layer as the identify layer and the protect, detection and response, recover, everything, and then the govern aspect of it on top of it can leverage it from this foundation layer.
Yeah, I loved that part of the project and the work we did together. I've been very passionate about mapping telemetry to controls. It's been an obsession of mine for years, so I love to see it in action. And I love to see everyone picking it up and working with it, because it's so useful. It's so useful to people. All right, how is what we're doing, how, our joint solutioning, the use cases, the art of the possible, how is it different from, what organizations have today, with their SIMs, with dashboarding, traditional GRC platforms? In what ways are we really pushing the envelope?
So one is, you touched on the silos.
Yes.
Okay. So when these tools are set up, tools are structured, that's owned by a particular department, and the governing and the monitoring and everything happens through that. So now you have A, B, C. Okay? Our approach is, fair, let's break all those silos down. With agentic interactions and agentic approaches and the way we created the gateway, MCP gateway, those things are possible. Okay? Leverage it. Make them interoperable. So our approach is we will create a layer on top of all of these technologies. There will be SIMs, there will be EDRs, there will be more things coming in. And then on an average, a client has about 77 different technologies. Right? So they will have that kind of a sprawl, and it'll increase with new slivers coming up. But we are creating this overlay and making that interoperation happen across all of these things. And when we are sharing with a GRC, from a GRC standpoint, it's one platform on the top. And we are providing all of this business and operational functions. For example, investigation, exposure information, policy enforcement analysis and analysis. All of these things are going and mapping under the controls. Right? So our value creation is about that interoperability and then overall value that we can bring out of it. And more importantly, the client has a particular problem. You bring in the solution architecture and the interoperability together to go solve that problem. It's not you have a problem, let me give you these three tools. You have a problem, the solution will get you from point A to point B. You already have these three. Let's glue them together to get the outcome. If there's a need for one, okay, let's discuss about it, but we're not starting with you need more shiny tools.
Yeah, no, the outcome is so important, that word, because you need to look at the outcome, and you will get there how you get there. I think in our industry, that we have been very tool focused, tool driven. to the detriment sometimes, arguably, of the customers and of companies, because on occasion you get this the opposite of interoperability. You get these moats and these castles, and you get data that can't flow.
Yep.
So that's there's something very liberating about this. So when organizations start to implement this kind of intelligence layer, what actually changes in how security teams will operate day to day?
I think they will have, number one trusted source. Two, because we are setting up the agentic interactions, they will be able to subscribe the data they want. They don't have to go and dig for the information. And it will be at their fingertips.
Right.
Then through the agentic interactions, through the, I mentioned about the Atom framework and the architecture, right? That particular framework and architecture is already, that particular digital worker is already curating the outcomes and the recommendations for them.
Yes.
By virtue of leveraging all of these things together, right? Yes. Including the risk posture, including the contextual information, including the remediation recommendations, right? So a SOC analyst with human augmentation is the key thing, right? And their domain expertise is what we are looking for them to advance to the next level. Right. Doesn't have to manually.
Right.
Today, in one of our time motion studies, we understood a human analyst was going to 8 different screens to collect the information. Now they don't have to.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, and I've been an 8 different screen person, maybe 80 different screen person at times. And that's one of the marvels of this. You can enter into the data where you need to. You can look at it through our solution, our software, which communicates with Lumen, which communicates through the MCP server. You're understanding the risk context in a way you haven't before, and in a discrete way, but also in a broader way as well. Right. So as we look ahead, how does all this change the role of AI in cybersecurity? Are we moving towards more autonomous systems?
Right. We are definitely setting up the foundation layer and the interoperability layer for a fully autonomous action.
Yes.
Okay. Now, we do understand and respect that some clients may not want to go to fully autonomous yet, but they want to have human augmentation at that particular point.
Right.
Okay. So that's some clients. Some clients will say, based on a risk-based approach, this particular set of assets, like for example, laptops.
Right.
I want to have fully autonomous action on any exposure on a particular laptop, right? But not on a server application, right? But there will be some customers, right, which say, no, I want to first focus on the risk. If there's any risk to my environment, I want to block it for a period of time.
Right.
Let me see what it is, and then I'll open it.
Right.
And that's the client that will lean towards fully autonomous.
Sure.
Okay. So you will have this spread. Not everybody will be on the fully autonomous way. Not everybody will be on the other spectrum of being manual to semi-autonomous, right? So we have to create. We are already through our architecture, autonomous security architecture. We created that layer. Now we will work with the client in terms of here are the use cases.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
Right.
Right. So, and it's up to them.
It's up to them. Yeah. And I think that's a wonderful point, because it's about the integrity of it, right? The human in the loop issue is real. We are probably through our joint solutioning advancing towards, mitigations and actions that you can take directly in an autonomous fashion.
Right.
And you're right, it is sort of up to the client. But at the same time, it's nice to see how rational and the integrity of the data. It's got to be trustworthy, right? And I think that's the part that I really enjoy, seeing the autonomous action, but also seeing that, you have an audit trail.
Right. In our case, taking 2 examples that we're creating, continuous controls monitoring could be fully autonomous in the sense that it's more continuously monitoring, continuously curating and providing the risk posture, right? No human in the loop. They can understand and review the risk analysis and then come to a part. Whereas third-party risk assessments, we always will have human in the loop process for them to assess what the risk and everything, and report who are the analysts from a procurement or the third party vendor, they would do it, right? So there is, just in terms of what we are creating, we created both.
We're doing both. Yeah, we're doing both, exactly. Well, Srini, this was a great conversation. Really appreciate it. I think the big takeaway is that this isn't really just about applying AI to cybersecurity. It's about rethinking how we build intelligence into the system itself. When you layer models, connect data, and continuously contextualize risk, you're moving from reacting to signals to actually understanding exposure in real time. And that's what ultimately changes cybersecurity, from a function that reports on risk to one that actively drives better business decisions. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
Okay.